When I bought the farmland that I now own using a loan from Farm Credit East in 2023, the land came with a well, but it did not come with a septic tank or electric at the road, so I knew it was on me to handle 2 of the 3 major utilities that come along with having a structure built. I had no idea how difficult it was going to be getting electric to the front of my property, much less what it was going to cost me. It did surprise me, which is why in this video I'm going to break down both the process of getting the electric to the front of my property, as well as what it cost me. Anybody thinking about building a homestead, starting an agricultural type of business, becoming a farmer, gardening, anything like that, this video is probably going to be immensely helpful for you. If I had known what a nightmare it was going to be bringing electric to undeveloped land, I might not have purchased this land, so I'm glad I didn't know, because I absolutely love where my farm is located and I love my land and I'm proud to be a steward of it. So this video may help you avoid some of the mistakes that I ended up making, just not knowing what I was doing. And frankly, at the time, there was just really no helpful information online that I could read or follow, because trust me, I tried looking it up. Real quick, before I dive into this video, I did not opt for solar. There's many reasons why. If you look up where I am in upstate New York, from October until April, we get no sun for months at a time. Truly, we get no sun for months at a time. This is not a tiny home. This is not a small residence that can be powered by some type of solar makeshift operation, which most of them are makeshift. This is a very large barn. This is a 2,600 square foot property that I had built first and foremost to run a farm / run a business. If there are advancements to solar in the future, I might reconsider. I also have a problem with how freaking ugly solar panels are. I can't stand the look of them, and I hate them even more in agricultural settings and idyllic American farmland. I do not want to see massive navy blue ugly solar panels. That's just my personal preference. I know someone out there, their little fingers are tingling and you're gonna have to write about solar anyway. I'm a fan of renewable energy. I am pro-environment. Trust me, you do not need to convince me of that. If I turn the camera around from where I'm standing right now, my electric pole is right there at the front of my property. It's kind of in the corner of my property, actually, like the far corner of it. And it is tied into my neighbor's pole directly next to me over here on my side of the street. I started the process of having electric brought to my property 6 months before it actually came. So if you are budgeting time for this, I would say it is going to take anywhere from 6 to 9 months to get the electric company to actually install your electric pole at the front of the property. If I had known it was going to take them this long, I would have started the process even earlier. Waiting for the electric to be installed did slow down the timeline in which the Amish were able to build my barn. They would have been done building this thing in 2 months if they had had the electric that they needed at the front of the property. Funnily enough, the Amish were not pushing solar on me either. They're just big fans of propane, and they too like our electric. They have fun with it. They found a lot of my lighting fixtures on Amazon. Yes, you heard that correctly. Some Amish are able to use computers in third-party settings, not in their homes, to run their businesses per their bishop's decisions. I started the process of having the electric brought to my property by calling the electric provision company in my area. So for me, that is National Grid. Any of you familiar with upstate New York, you've heard a lot of stories about National Grid. I have even more stories to add to the stories that you have heard, but the electric provision company is National Grid. There is no other one. That's a major problem here. There's no competitor for me to call. There's just one electric provision company. I called them up in December of 2023 telling them I'm going to need to have electric brought to my property, and the first thing they said to me on the phone was, well, you are going to have your neighbors sign easement papers. I said, what? I go, you're telling me my neighbors could technically prevent me from having electric brought to my property? They said, you heard that correct. I have no idea if this is the case countrywide, but it is absolutely the case in upstate New York. So do with that information what you will. If you are going to buy land and you have very grouchy neighbors that are angry that you're there to begin with, you might want to reconsider where you're buying the land. If they are going to have to sign easement papers, how are you going to know if they're going to have to sign easement papers? Call up the electric company and just ask. Maybe it's because I'm on a county road that I got hit with that roadblock. Maybe you don't have to do that on a municipal road. I'm not too sure, so definitely call up the electric company and ask them that before you buy your land. That is something I would absolutely check before you buy your raw land. After they told me that, I said, okay, so what are the next steps here? Do I have to knock on their door with paperwork? In retrospect, the guy working with me was supposed to have handled this for me. He told me it was on me to get them to agree to these easement papers. So I started calling up my neighbors. I was met with some pushback from some Others seem more open to it. Called National Grid back and told them I did have some neighbors that were willing to sign the easement papers. They said, okay, we're gonna come out with our measuring roller and go over your options with you in person. I said, sounds great. So I think it took them a month. They come out, the guy comes out with the roller, and he does the measurement for me to have my electric pole tied in to the closest pole, which is my neighbor right here. This is the avenue I ended up taking. He measured it, he came back and he said to me, he had a grin on his face, he goes, you're in luck. I go, what does that mean? He goes, if we put the pole exactly where it is, that is under 500 feet from your neighbor's pole. And per National Grid guidelines, that means it's gonna be free. And I said, what? He goes, yes, if you are able to have your electric pole tie in under 500 feet away from the closest one, it is free. That footage could be different depending on where you are. So again, please call your electric provision company and ask them. It might be 300 feet, it might be 700 feet. All I know is you are going to want to make sure you are under that footage. You're gonna wanna be triple sure, because he told me if that neighbor had declined, I would have had to tie in way down across the street because the neighbor across from me who owns a hayfield declined allowing me to tie into his property. If I was gonna tie in way down the street there, it was more like 900 feet, 1,100 feet away from my pole. And National Grid told me the second couple 100 feet is added on, not only are you footing the bill for that, you're footing the bill for the pole and the equipment that are gonna go in to bring the electric to your property. So suddenly the entire bill is on you, and it will go from being free, which mine was free, at the end of the day it was actually free, it will go from being free to $15,000 overnight. Very quickly he said that to me. Like from 500 to 900 feet, you might be looking at that going, oh, that's not that big of a difference. If it was free, maybe it'll be $1,000. He said, no, it is very quickly $10,000. So please, please check that. It might be worth getting your own little wheelie measuring thing to know the footage yourself, even not even going off of what the electric company is telling you, because that footage is everything. But that wasn't the end of the nightmare road for me. I then had problems with the county. So here's a critical mistake that I made. Feel free to make fun of me below if you want. But when I had my driveway put in by the Amish in 2023, I did not know I needed to call the county for that. Everything in my property is permitted, by the way. This entire structure, the electric in it, the farm stand, the bunny shed, all have permits from the town. Nothing is unpermitted. I just didn't realize that a driveway, a flat thing that can't go, you know, airborne in a hurricane and hit somebody, needed a permit. Turns out if you were on a county road, like I am, not a municipal, county road, you need a county permit to put in your driveway. I did not call that in. So the guy at the county that approves driveways, I never called in my driveway, so he didn't like me very much. I had never even met this man. That same man at the county, at the Public Works Department, is the same guy, at least in my county, who permits electric designs from the electric provision company. Do you get where I'm going with this? I will not bore you with the catty details, but it caused problems for me when it came time to having my electric design approved. The electric company told me normally the county or the town approves the electric design immediately. There's no back and forth. They defer to the expertise of the electric provision company and get out of its way. Not in this case. I had an unfortunate situation with individuals at the Public Works Department that were very not fond of the individual doing my electric grid design. Go figure. There was fighting in the street. I'm not trying to make this sound dramatic, but it was quite dramatic in the end. I had to pretty much try and mediate the situation, and it really spiked my cortisol for, I would say, the rest of the year. I would honestly say I'm just now calming down from it. Don't make that mistake. If you are buying land on a county road, call the county. You know, rub their back, make them feel special. That's all they want. They want to feel acknowledged and special. Bring them a flower basket. If you're buying land on a municipal road, I think you'll have fewer issues than I did. So again, if you're buying land on a county road, keep all of this in mind. I will still never forget the day, June 6, 2024, when National Grid pulled up with my electric pole. I felt like that was not possible. I cried. I was calling them for weeks and weeks and weeks in May going, is there an update? Is there a project update? Nobody would answer the call. I didn't know what to tell the Amish. They were waiting on my electric to finish a lot of things here. It was an awful situation. So when they just out of the blue showed up with those electric poles that day, I I'll never forget it. It was pure euphoria for me. So if you don't want to be in that type of situation, my advice to you is call the electric company immediately, find out what the footage is for free installation, call your neighbors immediately, find out if they're gonna agree to easement papers, ask the electric company, do you even need the easement papers? You might not. I might be in a weird area that requires it. Call the county if you're on a county road before you do anything to your property, because that is the person who will be approving your electric design. At the end of the day, I'm not sharing any of this to scare people or say, don't even bother doing this. This was hell on earth. Quite the contrary, I'm loving every second of doing all of this, and I am just sharing what I went through so that you don't have to go through it too, because I think if I knew a lot of this, it would have helped me with some critical mistakes that were made. I'm happy to be the one that makes them. It gives me something to write about and scream about online to you guys. But if anybody else watching this has had electric installed at the front of your property, feel free to share your experience below. Maybe it varies throughout the country. It might help someone reading in know what they should expect when they buy their raw land. With that, I'm gonna go start quite a few indoor seeds right now that can be direct sown before our last frost. We don't have our last frost until May 6th in these parts. I am in grow zone 5B. I have a lot of farming and gardening plans ahead of me. I'm very excited to share that with you guys and take you along for the ride. I cover all things land loans, starting a farm from scratch, developing raw land, working with the Amish, farming when you have no freaking idea what you are doing. So if you like any of that, subscribe, stick around, and I have more content coming your way. Bye.